Okay, now in the previous lecture, we've seen how cool Flexion is and how it can save us so much time. We also seen that it has a number of very nice templates that we can use to convince our target more to enter their password. Now the main problem was, I'll show you now if I'm just gonna go ahead. Now I've already started my fake access point, and I'm just gonna go ahead and connect to my evil twin, which is this one. Now, as expected, we'll automatically see the login interface. The problem is the interface doesn't look good at all. So you can see this looks very, very suspicious. Now, if we click on the bar in here, like I showed you in the last lecture, you'll actually get a nice interface where you can log in and enter your password, and it looks legit. It looks like it's coming from TP-Link. It's saying that there's a firmware update, and even when you start the upgrade, as we've seen before, you see a nice loading bar. No, this is the same if we open a new tab and go for Bing.com, for example. So the DNS spoofing and the DHCP server is working properly. Also, if we try to go to a HSTS website like Facebook, so again, this is being handled properly. And if I log in, I'll get the nice login page that we've seen before. So the only problem that we have right now is with the page that we automatically see. And chances are this is the page that the user will actually enter their password, because this page will be displayed to the user automatically. Now, because we know how this works in the background, because I covered all of these steps individually before, we should be able to debug and see what's going wrong. So we can see the fake access point is starting, so host APD is working properly. We can see that people can connect to this network, so that means the DHCP server is working properly. We can see any request we send is being redirected to my web server, so that means the DNS spoofing is working. Also, the web page is being displayed, so the web server is working fine. We can also see that HSDS is being handled properly, so again, the server is configured properly. The only thing that's not working well is whenever we have stuff coming after the name of the website. So if you look at all the examples where this works well, so if we look in here, you'll see that we just have the domain name followed by a file name, which is fine. If you look in here, you'll see we just have a domain name. And if you look in here, again, you just have a domain name. The only time when the page is not being displayed properly is when we have a folder name or a directory name followed by more stuff or more requests. Now, we can see we're not getting a 404 error, so we know the redirect is being handled properly as well. The only thing I can think of is if this web page is using relative URLs. Now, if you remember, after the cloning lecture when we were talking about captive portals, I spent a full lecture showing you how to download and clone a web page, and then I spent the next lecture talking about relative URLs. And I said, if the page in here uses relative URLs in its code, it will try to load these URLs relatively to where it is right now. So right now we are in a directory, or the browser thinks we are in a directory called fwlink. So anything that this page uses, the browser will try to find it in a directory called fwlink. Now on our web server, we don't have such a directory, and that's why I think this is not being loaded. So let's go and have a look on the code and see what happens. Now again, we know all of this, and I was able to deduce all of this because I covered all the individual steps of creating the fake access point. So this just shows how knowing how this attack works manually will help you with fixing issues that you might face even in the future if you find different issues. So I'm going back to Kali, and Fluxion uses a web server called Light HTTP. So it doesn't use Apache, it uses a different web server. Now looking at its source code, I was able to discover, or you can even guess, that Fluxion stores all of its files in the temp directory. So we're going to go to Files, and I'm going to click on the title bar here, or the path bar, and I'm going to go to TMP. In here, you can see we have a directory called TMP Flux. And this is where Fluxion keeps all of its files. So this includes the config files for all these servers that it uses, It includes the data that it captures, and so on. Inside data, you'll see the files used in the web interface. So we have the HTML files, we have JavaScript files, and styling files, CSS. Now the one that we're concerned with, like I said before, is the index. This is the one that the users see when they go to the fake web page. So I'm going to right click it and open it with Genie like we always do. And I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see well. And as you can see at the top, the first thing that we can see that this page is requesting a file called bootstrap.min.css. Now we know from looking at this that this file is in here, so it's in the same working directory. This will work usually, but if the page is being loaded like we've seen in here, if there was a directory name after the domain name, then basically this code is saying look for bootstrap.min.css inside the directory that I am at the moment. So in our example here, this is not gonna work because it's gonna look for that file inside a directory called fwlink, and we're not in fwlink. There's nothing called fwlink in my web server. Therefore, we'll have to modify all of the links in our web page so that they start from the web root. So regardless of where I was, they're not going to be relative links. They're not going to consider where the URL, where the current URL is, and they'll always start from the domain name. So they'll always start from go.microsoft.com or whatever domain that's loaded. Now, I spent a full lecture showing how to do that before. And I said all you have to do is just put a / before the file name. So all we have to do is just put a / in here. Now I'm not going to go manually and do this over all of the URLs that I have in this current file. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go on search, replace. So we're looking for href equals quotation mark, and we're going to replace it with href equals quotation mark /. We're going to replace this in this session, and that's done. Now the next thing that I want to do is modify the src. So href is a way of referencing files. Another way of giving files or loading files is to use the src argument in here. Now again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to search, replace, and we're looking for src, and we're going to replace it with src equals quotation /. Going to replace this in the session, and that's done as well. Now, when the browser loads this code, whenever it sees a / before the file name, it's not going to consider its current location, so it's not going to look for this file relatively. It'll go all the way back to the web root and start looking for the file. So this will always work for us regardless of the way that the page is loaded. Now there is one more location where we need to add a /, which is the form. So as you remember, before we had to add the form manually to our code. Now, Fluxdown automatically has a form in the web page. The only thing is if we look at it in here, you'll see the action is looking for a file called check.php. But check.php is going to be loaded relatively to the location where the page is. Again, I'm just going to add a / to say, don't look for this relatively, look for this at the web root. Now I'm done. I'm going to do Control-S to save and Control-Q to quit. And we're ready to test this. Now let's go to the Windows machine. I'm going to close this. And then I'm just going to go to my network, and I'm actually going to disconnect first so that you see the whole experience. See, the user is going to be jammed from their network. They're going to come into this other network. They're going to click on connect. And as you can see, the page that automatically gets displayed to us looks perfect. It looks really good. All the styles are loaded properly. It's saying that there's a firmware update. It looks legit. When the user enters their password and start the upgrade, it's going to work perfectly. Now, before I do that, I also want to show you if we go to the normal page that was working perfectly, still works well, so we didn't affect that. And also, if I go on a Mac OS X machine, just as an example, just for a change, let's connect to this network. And as you can see a very nice login page gets displayed to you automatically. Now, like I said in the previous lecture, this attack looks more believable for smartphone users like iOS and Android, and for OS X users, because the login page will be displayed inside a window. It's not going to be shown inside the default web browser. So it just looks like it actually is a firmware update, or that there is something wrong with their router and you need to fix it. Now, if the user agrees and enters their password, they're going to start the upgrade because they want to upgrade their firmware. Once they do that, they'll get this very nice login loading page showing that the firmware is being updated, and when it's done, it's actually going to say wait for a few minutes. But if we go back to our Kali machine, you'll see that we got the password in here, and the password has been verified by aircrackng, so this is definitely the right password. So if the user puts the wrong password, they're not going to get through. They'll only get through if they put the right password. And we can see that we got the password here, which is 1234 ABCD. Now, this issue that I showed you how to fix today will happen with all the templates that Fluxion uses. So it's not only specific to the TP-Link template, it'll actually happen with all the templates. So you can just follow the steps that I showed you to fix it. And this is also a very nice example to show you that when you know what's happening in the background, it will be easy for you to debug and fix it.
Our next video is 2 methods to hack WPA and WPA to enterprise. Please don't forget guys to hit like, subscribe button if you like this video. Thank you.